Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kindled. Today, I want to share a story that really blessed me. So it's a story some of you might have already heard, but just the way it hit me this time was so different and it blessed me. And if you're going through a tough time, I know it's going to bless you. And it's the story of Joseph, but this time I just want to point out two key things that really stood out to me that I feel are really important. So for those of you who don't know, Joseph in the Bible was the son of Jacob. He was Jacob's beloved, favorite. And so Joseph had dreams that God gave him that he would be ruler, he would be in power. His brothers didn't like that. They were jealous. They didn't like that their father made him a colorful coat. And they were so jealous of Joseph, they sold him into slavery at 17 years old. And he was pretty much in Egypt and into slavery for about 13 years. And in between that time before he actually does become second in command, amazing story. If you want to read it, it's in Genesis chapter 37 through 50. But also between the time he's thrown into slavery and comes into power, in between there, the Pharaoh's wife, so Potiphar's wife, was trying to seduce him and he resisted. And so what did she do? She falsely accused him and tried to destroy him, and he was thrown into prison. Yeah, just not a good situation. So he went through a lot. 13 years. Imagine 13 years of hopelessness, feeling that God forgot about the dreams and visions that he gave you, right? But the one key thing that to me was so symbolic, that this time just really stood out to me, was the issue of his cloak. If you see the story, his cloak, his coat continued being just stripped away from him. And to me, that resembles so many things. So if you see in Genesis chapter 37, verse 23, it says his brothers ripped off his beautiful cloak, just stripped it away. You fast forward to Genesis chapter 40, verse 11, Potiphar's wife grabbed him by the cloak and he ran away and he was butt naked. She grabbed him. He just kept getting the coat taken away from him. And to me, the coat is symbolic of so many things. It could be God's favor, God's blessings over your life, who God made you out to be. And sadly, in life, there will be people or situations, but people who may be jealous or people who just are seeking to destroy and dismantle who God made you to be, try to remove his blessings and favor, and just try to discredit you in any single way. And this is so symbolic because this happened to Joseph. He was not in the wrong, and people still tried to destroy his every being. And that just meant so much to me, especially Potiphar's wife wanting to seduce him. And he said no, and sadly that's going to happen. People will falsely accuse you and try to destroy you when they don't get their way with you. And all I can say is when it comes to matters like that, just leave it to God. But just think of how throughout his history, people were stripping him away from his coat, from what God had over his life. But despite what they tried to do, God's favor still remained over his life, even in the darkest times. So if you feel this way, you may feel like family members, just like Joseph, family members are trying to strip away what God has for you. It could be friends, it could be coworkers, it could be other Christians, it could be just whoever, or situations that can make you feel like you're being stripped away from God's favor. Just know that God is sovereign and what he has set out for you cannot be messed with. Don't worry about other people trying to destroy what God has for you, because they can't. But the good news is when you fast forward, Genesis 41 verse 32, when he was placed second in command, he was made ruler over much. He was clothed in fine linen. His coat kept being stripped away, but in the end, he was clothed with fine linen. He was second in command, and he was able to bless those that actually destroyed and betrayed and hurt him. And to me, it's just the issue of the coat. I was like, I never really thought of it that way. It just kept being stripped away. And it could be symbolic of so many different things. But I just want to encourage you, don't worry about people who are trying to take that coat off, taking away from what God has for you and what he has already ordained and he's anointed you to do. And all those things, don't worry about that. And in this season, I've just learned how sovereign God is. He's sovereign over anyone in power, I wouldn't worry about politics. If you're worried about politics, God is sovereign. He is sovereign over all, and anything that's trying to come against you or whatever, or your family, or whatever it may be, it cannot prosper because God is sovereign and he's in control. And so I just want to encourage you. And then the second point that really stood out to me, aside from the quote, is that every time that life or people maybe try to become a block or try to destroy or stop what God wants to do for your life, or they try to just destroy you for whatever reason, they are not realizing that they're actually catapulting you into what God has for you. Joseph probably saw him being thrown into prison and being falsely accused and thrown into slavery. And all he went through, he could have easily thought, this is it. I'm hopeless. How am I ever going to become ruler? How is this going to happen? But if it weren't for those dark moments, he wouldn't be able to get to where he did to become ruler. So just to encourage you that no matter how dark your season is, no matter what you're going through, no matter how grim or hopeless, and trust me, I've been there. 13 years seems like a long time. I know there's things I've dealt with for years and I'm like, how? I don't get it. But I have seen that through those moments, God can still have his hand over you. You can still have God's favor over your life. And just know that no matter what people or life throws at you, will come against what God has ordained. And it's actually a stepping block into what he has called you to do for his perfect will to be done. So this really blessed me. And I just hope it encourages you. And just to remind you that no matter what you're going through, God is sovereign and he sees. And just cling on to him. Don't let go. Just trust him and watch the beautiful things he will do in your life. All right. Thank you so much for listening and have a blessed day.